how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today I've got some Week 4 fantasy football lineup advice with 5 must-sit running backs for this week's games. These are players that either I think that their matchups last week and their production were a little bit fluky, and I don't think we can expect that consistent production week over week here, or these are players who I think are quality, but I think the matchups this week pose a challenging task, and we might want to go another direction if we had the luxury of a better option on our bench. So, without further ado, if you are new around here, make sure to drop down, give today's video a like, and click that subscribe button, and turn the bell on so you're never late for an episode. And let's hit that intro and get straight in to our first player. One more quick note before we get into our first player, Damien Harris here. I haven't obviously gotten out my weekly positional rankings for running backs and wide receivers before today, which is Thursday. So I will be posting those tomorrow, but there'll be a little bit of some inaccurate data, or I'm going to have to try and guess and project things around the results following that Thursday night game for the actual video episode. If you'd like access to those weekly positional rankings, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses before that game goes live tonight for week 4 action, as well as obviously all those key players on Sunday and Monday, check out sizzlefantasy.com. SFS Gold members get access to those rankings in addition to my services, setting your lineup and answering all of your questions in my DMs on the community Discord. So that is free. That community Discord is free if you want to go check that out. But to actually get guaranteed responses, me set your lineup, and then obviously those rankings, you'll become an SFS Gold member. That is just over $1 a week, so go check that out. You can find the link to that in the description of today's video. But Damien Harris is the first player up on the block here. New England against Tampa this week. It's obviously TB12 returning home to Gillette Stadium to play Bill Belichick in what should be a highly entertaining football game. But the thing here that I think is going to be a struggle for the Pats is not only this Tampa Bay defensive front, but I think the game script might get a little bit out of hand. The Pats unquestionably have an elite offensive line. They have a very good group on that front 5. They can move blockers out of the way. But although Tampa's run stop is not quite to the extent or of elite ability that they were last season, they are still very good. Their linebackers, Levante David and Devin White, still flow very quickly, hit holes hard, and they are very, very good tacklers. They do not waste opportunities to put offensive players on the ground. And then Vita Vea might just be the best nose tackle in football right now. Literally sucks up 2 blockers every single snap. Ndamukong Suh is still there. You've got Shaq Barrett. We'll see if Jason Pierre-Paul can play. This front 7 is loaded. It's going to be a handful for any offensive line. We saw even, the Cowboys offensive line that looks like they're having a bit of a bounce back this season. They opted to go a different route and just try and air it out against Tampa and attack that weaker back end, which is what a lot of teams have tried to do to start this season off. And I think that we might see a similar approach from the Pats here this week. I think that the offensive game plan is not going to be catered so much to the run as it normally would have been. They obviously got a bit away from that last week as Damien Harris had a very down performance against the Saints. But I think that in general, moving forward the rest of the season, Damien Harris will be a very quality, high floor running back too. But this week and last week, I expect to be a little bit two of those dud performances and a little bit more of those rougher games for him this season. So I'm sitting Damien Harris down on my bench and moving a different direction because I think he's going to be incredibly touchdown dependent this week, and he's going to struggle to actually produce yardage against this Bucs defense. James Conner, he had the 2 touchdowns last week, but this was expected. Chase Edmonds is not a goal line back. He is a much smaller player who's going to get out there and be used in the receiving game and thrown passes to. Conner is more of the nitty-gritty, 3rd and 4th down, short yardage situation. You need a power back. He is not an efficient runner at all. He's not very elusive, but he is a hammer, and he'll go in there and run over a defender or 2, pick up a tough first down. But he's not an every down back here for the Cardinals. There is a very clear separation between the role that James Conner plays for this offense and the role that Chase Edmonds plays here. We've got ourselves a blockbuster matchup. Arizona taking on the Los Angeles Rams. I apologize, I forgot to put that up on the screen. But this is a tough Rams front 7. It's not exactly an unbeatable unit, but my expectation here is we're going to see a lot more of Chase Edmonds this week. I think this is going to be a very high motor offensive production game for both sides. And what that's going to mean is Kyler Murray running around, being a gunslinger, chucking the ball downfield, flipping the ball out in the flats to Chase Edmonds. He is the running back I want to be starting for this team this week. I think that the Cardinals are going to have to get things done in the passing game. Kyler's going to be running around trying to evade Aaron Donald's pass rush and obviously find DeAndre Hopkins. Hopefully he can step back up and bounce back from last week where he was banged up and didn't really produce much. But again, James Conner, a very touchdown-dependent play. Don't read too much into those scores. His yardage output outside of that is very unflattering, and I think that this is something that is going to be a bit of an anomaly here. And in standard leagues, maybe if you want to roll the dice on him scoring touchdowns, that's fine. But week over week, in any other sort of PPR scoring format, James Conner is not a reliable option for us. Mark Ingram. Now, obviously, the Texans aren't a go-to backfield this season in terms of players we want to be starting, but you absolutely want to be sitting Mark Ingram against the Bills this week. The run defense for the Buffalo Bills is the 6th ranked unit against the running back position in fantasy football right now. So they're not allowing a huge output of points to this position, and you're talking about a group that really uses a committee style. David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, they all have their roles here. Rex Burkhead gets on the field every once in a while. It's going to be very, very tough in a given week to find consistent production from one of these players, but especially in this type of a matchup, you're going to see Mark Ingram struggle. And for a player who, again, had a down week last week, I'm not going back and putting him in a lineup, even at a flex spot. You're definitely keeping him out. He's probably a borderline top 30 play this week, but I don't think he makes it anywhere close to that top 24 for those top 12 position groups for the running back position in 12-team leagues. Mike Davis. Now, Atlanta versus Washington, we've seen some runners put up some okay numbers against the Washington football team, but what really concerns me here is this Atlanta offense in general. Cordero Patterson, who is not even the primary rusher for this team, has by far and away taken over this team's most valuable fantasy football running back position holder. Cordero does it by catching passes. He doesn't even run the football all that much. He's got 7 rushing attempts each of the last 3 weeks, and it's the work that he does as a receiver where he's incredibly efficient, incredibly productive, and has kind of been locked into as, I guess he looks like the number 2 threat right now. Kyle Pitts is there, but he hasn't been as consistent as Cordero has been the last 2 weeks as a pass catcher. Calvin Ridley's the clear one. He's getting a lot of targets. He's hit his floor here on a nice week-to-week basis, but hasn't quite knocked out his ceiling yet. Mike Davis needs touchdowns. He has not scored one yet this season. And this Atlanta offensive line is not good enough to push people out of the way and allow him to be an efficient runner. He's no breakaway, flash and dash type of a player. Mike Davis is a put the shoulder pads down and get 3 or 4 yards a clip. Not very efficient. So you're looking for touchdowns that you're not getting here like we saw from Todd Gurley last season. And it leaves a lot left to be desired. Washington, again, no easy task. If Matt Ryan takes a bunch of sacks, he's basically a statue. I talked about this in a video earlier this week. If he gets in a situation where this Falcons line can't protect him, there is going to be a lot of sacks allowed here, and this Atlanta offense could have an absolute disaster of a day. So I'm staying completely away from Mike Davis. I'm probably sitting all my Falcons outside of Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley. But in some situations, Cordero Patterson is worth the start as well, because I think that as a running back wide receiver, he almost kind of reminds me as that blurred line between Ty Montgomery being a running back and a wide receiver like 4 or 5 years ago for the Packers. He's kind of that player right now. He lines up in the backfield all the time, but does a lot of damage catching passes. I would rather start Cordero Patterson in the running back spot for this Falcons offense. And then finally here, this one's going to suck for a lot of players out there who own Christian McCaffrey. But I think if you've got better options out there, if you have some really quality plays, Chuba Hubbard is not somebody that will make my top 24 list likely this week. I'm still working on finalizing those rankings. Obviously, those will be ready about lunchtime tomorrow, or today rather, for as I'm recording this late Wednesday night, for that Thursday night football game between the Jaguars and the Bengals. But Chuba Hubbard's got a tough matchup. A lot of people aren't giving Dallas the credit they deserve in the run game. Now, their back end is still exploitable. They've got some ball hawks back there. But when you talk about the speed that they have as a position group of linebacker and their outside edge defenders, along with just the ability to eat up blocks that their front four has, they're a pretty underrated unit. I mean, I saw it week 1 against Tampa, and it kind of flashed to me, and I was kind of wondering, is this more of a product of the Buccaneers' inability to run the football, or are we talking about something a little bit more here? And week 2, Austin Eckler had an okay day, but was more effective as a receiver than he was as a rusher. Week 3, they stomped the Eagles. Now, Philly did have a big run on their first attempt and then never really went back to the run game. But the big concern for me with Chuba here is he's going to need to make some explosive plays. He's not someone who, when evaluating him in his college days at Oklahoma State, is going to come out here and break a bunch of tackles. He kind of goes down at first contact. He's a very lightning quick runner, so if he finds a crease, he very well could be gone and prove me wrong in a flash here with a breakaway play. But the one thing that was a little bit concerning to me that his head coach even said was that Christian McCaffrey's loss will impact this team more in the receiving game than it will in the run game. So to me, that means Chuba is going to be just fine on the ground. But that elite pass-catching upside we see Christian McCaffrey haul in isn't necessarily going to be the same situation that Chuba Hubbard just inherits here. In turn, Royce Freeman, a bigger back, more likely to see goal line carries in my opinion. I think he's a big threat to take away those short 1 and 2 yard punch-it-in scores. That concerns me a little bit as well because I think that plays both into his floor and ceiling numbers here, as maybe Chuba comes out here and has 80 yards from scrimmage, but if he can't get that touchdown on top of things, you're still feeling like a little bit slight-handed here or a little bit slighted with the lack of points. So he's probably a boomer bust option this week. I'll be honest, that's kind of where I'm at with him right now. I think there's a very real chance that if he gets out there and finds that crease and the Panthers stick with the run game, maybe he has an okay day here. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't come out and find those creases, if he doesn't have a really explosive rush, I think there's a chance that Dallas can bottle him up here and keep him to a pretty quiet outing. And again, with those concerns I have on the goal line, I don't think he's going to be getting many free 6-point plays either. Alrighty, those were 5 of my must-sit running backs for Week 4 fantasy football action. Remember, go check out SFS Gold down in the description of today's video. It's just over $1 a week, and you'll get yourself access to those individual positional rankings on top of me setting your lineup for you on a week-to-week basis, and those exclusive membership privileges in the SFS Community Discord, which again is down there and free, but you get those additional resources and accesses to myself or Eric with your SFS Gold membership. So thank you all so much for watching today's episode. Go check out my must-sit running backs list, wide receivers today this video was obviously the running backs. My must-sit wide receivers are out today as well this morning, and you can go check those out as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.